Warning, this video may be triggering for some. Viewer discretion is advised. Kamille Cupcake Mckinney. She loved Peppa Pig, playing with her brother and cousin. She loved bubbles and going to Walmart, preferably the toy section. She was just a sweet, innocent little girl. Her father, Dominic Mckinny, gave her that nickname. He said as soon as she was born, she was cute, red, with brown eyes. He said, "That's my cupcake," and had been calling her that ever since. Kamille Cupcake Mckinney. Tragic. She went missing. Abducted from a birthday party at Birmingham's Tom Brown Village on October 12, 2019, a place where April Thomas, Cupcake's mother, said she went often. But she didn't know that Patrick Devon Stallworth and Derek Irisha Brown was on the prowl, hunting with sinister motives. The two had discussed their disgusting plans all day and was ready to put them in action. The sickening couple stopped at the Shell gas station near Tom Brown's village. Stallworth was seen on CCC footage purchasing $18.91 worth of candy, which he purchased with his food stamp card. I also read articles where he purchased male enhancement products as well, but I'm not certain. In court testimony, a 12-year-old girl leaving cheerleading practice was stopped by Stallworth, asking her if she wanted some candy. She ran. Sitting in their Toyota Sequoia in Tom Brown's village, Brown asked a resident, "Where were all the kids that used to play in the circle?" The women that testified said that Brown seemed overly interested in wanting to find children. Videos from Tom Brown's village showed Stallworth talking to the two little girls, Cupcake and her best friend. They were both 3 years old, and they would walk off camera range with Stallworth. Testimony would say that Ava explained the way a 3-year-old would that Cupcake had gotten into the car with the man to get candy. Ava said she didn't want no candy. They had driven off with the little girl. A 10-year-old boy, he witnessed it. He would later say that Cupcake was crying. She didn't want to go. And a nation was introduced to Cupcake in a way we wish we hadn't. Stories of a white woman and a black man, I even read about that, pulled up in a truck and ran off with the 3-year-old. Outlandish stories about parents all over the internet, how they had something to do with it. The mother sold Cupcake to get back at the father. The father was a gangbanger and his rivals took Cupcake. She's fake crying. He's acting like he knows exactly where his daughter is. It was a drug deal gone bad. I even watched a person on a live recording of a high-speed chase after another car claiming that Cupcake was inside it. The Birmingham Police Department was actually in that footage. We would later find out that Cupcake's parents had nothing to do with it at all. However, those hurtful, shameful comments of people insinuating things, it wasn't necessary. But the comments are still there. Do they care? Of course not. Misery loves company. Meanwhile, Cupcake was in that apartment with these drug-addicted monsters. I will try to explain in the most censored way that I can. Stallworth wanted sexual gratification from a child, and Brown just wanted a child. I will get more into this horrifying claim. Of course, later, their stories would change. Brown's story more than a few times. But she was the one that agreed to show where Cupcake's body was, in an Alabama dumpster. That's where these drug-addicted monsters put this child in a dumpster, like she was on their level. Trash. Brown would explain to authorities a long, drawn-out story. You know, the one where you're lying, but you're trying to make it sound believable. She explained that they were low on cash and needed gas. She also said that they needed to find another place to live. They went to Stallworth's mother's house and got some copper. I need to add that Stallworth's mother said that her family and they had nothing to do with this at all. She went to say other things, but basically she was mortified by what he did. I couldn't imagine. This monster is her son. So with this copper, it was sold for $20, and Stallworth went back to Shell to put $6 of gas, an entire $6, and that's when he got the candy. Brown said that he likes candy and that he had a big bag of candy at home. While Stallworth talked to the girls at Hayes KH, a school where extremely young students attend, she was minding her own business, sitting in the truck. The couple sold Brown's boat trailer at a pawn shop for $60. Finally, they were at Bridlewood Community. Brown said she lived there before, and they parked at a cul-de-sac for a while. She was hoping to find her old landlord for a place to stay. She said she needed to take the edge off and took some meth and trazodone too. I'm not saying that she didn't, but it seems like she was building up a case. Watch, you'll see. By this time, the couple was back at Tom Brown's village, still looking for toddlers, and Brown was dozing off, because she had drugged herself. Brown said she asked no questions. She knew not to ask any questions of why they were even back there. Stallworth actually sold drugs there. She figured that's what he was doing. She was spacey, sleepy, and unclear of her surroundings, or that's what she needs the police to think. She claims she didn't know that Cupcake was in the car until they stopped at the gas station again to get more gas. I suppose the $6 ran out. I mean, where can you go on $6 but the early 90s? If that isn't a drug-addicted move, what is? She also needed something to drink. She said that she needed to wash the taste of meth out her mouth. That is actually what she said. That's when she said she realizes that Cupcake was in the car with them. But she minded her own business. Brown says Stallworth left her in the car, sleep, and took Cupcake inside the apartment. She let the police know that the neighbors had seen her sleeping in the car, but I also read that she was back and forth to the car as well. But when she came to, she went inside the apartment, made a sandwich, and on her way to bed, she saw Cupcake there. But again, she was minding her own business. When she woke back up, Stallworth was forcing Cupcake to perform on him. The next morning, Stallworth was frantic. There was an Amber Alert for Cupcake, and the police were looking for him as the main suspect. Stallworth ran in and out the apartment, hiding his horrors, shame, and guilt. I suppose Brown was minding her own business, huh? Alabama Governor Kay Ivey offered $5,000 for Cupcake's return. Literally, the world was watching now and hoping this baby would return home. The pressure to find Cupcake was on. Now the reward, $6,000. Police were getting false tips that Cupcake was being held on a Jefferson Avenue. With an extensive search, she wasn't there. That may be the footage that I viewed. Now $25,000 for the return of Cupcake. Over 400 tips to Crime Stoppers. On CBS 42 News, Cupcake's 11-year-old brother, Amari, said he missed his sister and was praying for her safe return. Vigils held by Cupcake's mother and grandmother and other family members for Cupcake. A landfill had actually been searched days prior at Gardendale. She was not found. Their apartment was searched, but not secured by police. A washer, dryer, microwave, and TV were stolen. No one knew who had been inside the apartment. Did it matter? Or was it just to cloud your judgment of what had happened there? Perhaps it was someone else. But there was a blood-stained mattress on the floor with a plastic cover over it, and that was sent for DNA testing. The later would reveal that Stallworth, Brown, and Cupcake's DNA was on it, as well as Cupcake's blood. But that would be determined later. Along with the fact that the DNA of Stallworth was underneath Cupcake's nails, she scratched him. She fought for her life. Stallworth was arrested for 7 counts of child porn on his phone. His bond was $500,000 according to AL.com. Remember, he was selling copper, barely gassing up his SUV, and selling boat shit, but he posts a bond that high? If it was 10%, it was $50,000. However, he posted it and he bonded out. And he was released from jail at 3:22 a.m., so nobody would know. None of the images on the phone were of Cupcake, but it was of someone else's child. If police thought that Stallworth was linked to Cupcake at the time, there was no proof as of yet. But finally, with the surveillance from the gas station, that would prove that he was in the area, along with the footage of Tom Brown's village. Witnesses said Stallworth tried to bribe several young children with offers of candy, but he was able to snatch Cupcake. Meth, trazodone, and sleeping pills were found in Cupcake's system. Several cuts on her body. Her head injury was consistent with being pressed against a hard surface for a long amount of time. She died from suffocation with her nose and mouth closed. Brown says that she had witnessed Stallworth sexually assaulting Cupcake. Stallworth said that Brown wanted him to touch the 3-year-old girl. Some reports, it just wasn't clear. The autopsy couldn't or didn't determine if she was sexually assaulted. However, Brown said she woke up and Stallworth was forcing her. Stallworth said Brown asked if they could keep her, like she was a puppy or something. But ultimately, she would put her hands over Cupcake's nose and mouth, and he said she, quote, put her to sleep, end quote. Those was the words he used. A text message sent by Stallworth 10 days after her body was recovered was to his family. He snuck a phone in jail. That's not uncommon. His text said, quote, I'm sorry I did this. It was an accident. And that poor baby's family, end quote. Cupcake was murdered hours after her kidnapping. This would be additional evidence that would be used in the trial. It was determined both these devils had a hand in this baby's demise. The jury consisted of 13 women and 3 men. The judge, Clyde Jones, said one or both of them sexually abused this girl, that they worked together. They would both end up getting life in prison with no parole to be served in federal prison. And Cupcake's mother was there to witness that. And I hope this gave her some kind of comfort in knowing that these 2 monsters will never be free again. I couldn't find much on Stallworth, but the obvious. He is a drug abuser, and he was hiding from people that he was a pedophile. He was not and is never the father of Cupcake. For some reason, people thought that. People that knew him and grew up with him and went to school with him and worked with him, they had a hard time believing that he could be capable of such horror. but you never truly know someone. The one that came closest to knowing him was the one that helped him. In 2009, before Cupcake was even born, Derek Irisha Brown, 18 at the time, using the alias Quintessa Yvonne Jackson, she asked the judge for help. She said that she didn't want to be a failure. She explained how she came from a violent, unstable childhood with sexual abuse and removed from a drug-addicted mother and placed in foster homes and in and out of mental facilities. And she was desperate to keep her family that she created together. She had been charged with burglary and theft of property and sentenced to 2 years probation. She violated her probation by failing to report and paying court fees. She was arrested again in December of 2010 by Birmingham police, charged with 2 felonies, robbery and use of a credit card. She basically had written to the judge again about her woes and how her fiancé had only made $7.50 an hour and the expenses of diapers and rent and food and bills. It was overwhelming, and this is why she had stolen the woman's credit card. Don't let me become a statistic. This is what she said. She served a little bit of time here and there. She was placed on probation. Eventually, all 6 of Brown's children were removed from her care. She had placed one of her children in a dryer as punishment, and all 6 of her children would go to stay with a relative. Brown would find that relative and pulled a large black handgun out and demanded her children back and got them back. Brown told the relative that she would kill the children and herself before she gave them back. After Brown fled, the family told officers that she might be at an old boyfriend's house. That boyfriend was Patrick Stallworth. So as young as 18, she knew him. I just wonder, how young did she know him? Stallworth was 10 years over her. Officers would spot her car at the hotel. She fled with the kids in the car on a high-speed chase with the police until she crashed. Luckily, no one was injured. The kids was again removed from her care. Somehow she seeked out and found her love interest, and you know the rest. Brown seems like the type of woman who would willingly give her children up to a man and just simply mind her business. And Stallworth was going to pray until he did what he succeeded to do. And this is why they are where they need to be. My condolences again to the parents and the family of Kamille Cupcake Mckinney. I know that Stallworth is making the best of his time there because he flirts and tries to hook up with the female guards, and he's open about his crime. He says that he did sexually assault Cupcake, but he didn't kill her. And we know that Brown is somewhere in a woman's prison, minding her business.